California is burning, and for the media, global warming is to blame. But we disagree. Los Angeles is burning again. All of Southern California is facing a series of devastating wildfires, fueled by a combination of extreme weather conditions and controversial land management practices. As of today, January 11th, 5 different fires have burned a total area of over 140 square kilometers, twice the size of Manhattan, destroying up to 10,000 buildings, causing 10 deaths, leaving as many missing and necessitating the evacuation of at least 180,000 people. All this is happening in a winter month, which traditionally does not coincide with the wildfire season, much more common from July to October in California. The fires are not yet under control, but the damage is already disastrous. Estimated damages are already around $150 billion. Local authorities and experts agree that these events are a symptom of a larger problem, climate change, and the need to adapt environmental policies. We acknowledge this, but we believe things are not quite as they seem, and we'll explain why in the second part of this exciting video. It all started on Tuesday, January 7th, when the Santa Ana wind swept through Southern California, first scattering embers and then fueling the flames of increasingly large fires. During the night, residents in the area received an alert message warning of possible gusts of up to 100 miles per hour, a terrifying escalation that turned an already precarious situation into a full-blown crisis. As the winds continued to blow, more embers took flight, igniting new fires in dry, fragile areas that hadn't seen significant rainfall in over 8 months. Los Angeles County, already grappling with drought, had essentially become a powder keg waiting for a spark. Firefighters faced an almost impossible task, with winds so strong they grounded the planes used to drop water and retardants. In a press release on Wednesday morning, authorities declared that all residents of Los Angeles County were considered to be in danger, initiating evacuation orders for tens of thousands of people, forcing them to leave their homes and leaving thousands more awaiting updates. By Wednesday evening, 3 massive fires in the hilly areas of Pacific Palisades and Malibu, the Sylmar neighborhood, and near Pasadena showed no signs of slowing down, causing at least 5 deaths and becoming some of the most devastating in California's history. Along with fear, indignation began to grow over a tragedy that everyone had seen coming, but no one had tried to prevent. From there, it was a short step to identifying blame and causes. The mainstream media was quick to frame it all as a natural disaster caused by global warming, mixing reasonable hypotheses and facts with the usual ideological spin. In the end, 3 main factors emerged from the media frenzy as contributing to the severity of the fires. 1. Dry vegetation. Over the past 2 years, Southern California experienced its 2 wettest winters, followed by an extremely dry start to winter. This led to abundant growth of grass and shrubs that, once dried out in recent months, turned into perfect fuel for the fires. Researchers suggest that prolonged periods of autumn and winter drought are likely linked to warming oceans. Essentially, rising warm air alters the path of the so-called jet stream, the fast-moving band of winds that regulates weather across North America. This creates undisturbed high-pressure zones in the atmosphere, causing unusual and prolonged drought periods. 2. Sparks from power lines. California's electrical infrastructure has always posed a significant fire risk. Overhead power lines, which are common, can spark in strong winds, igniting the vegetation below. Strong winds can cause power lines to sway and collide, break or detach, or fray their insulation, generating dangerous sparks. This was confirmed by Southern California's Edison decision to cut power in some areas during the windstorm that preceded the fires. 3. The Santa Ana winds. This is the typical season for the so-called Santa Ana winds, hot and dry air currents that accelerate as they descend from the mountains towards the coast. These winds not only fuel the fires but also make them difficult to contain, pushing the flames at unstoppable speeds. Alexander Gushinov, a meteorologist at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, pointed out that climate change probably won't increase the wind speeds, but it could make them drier and hotter, further drying out vegetation and increasing the risk of fires. In short, with more natural fuel and stronger, hotter winds, once a spark ignites, vast fire fronts can quickly form and advance rapidly with the wind. The Santa Ana winds are not rare. We see them every year around this time, says Jason Moreland, senior meteorologist at the emergency communication platform Alert Media. These are descending winds that originate inland and are caused by a dry, high-pressure system from the northwest and a moist, low-pressure system from the south. However, these winds are manifesting much stronger than usual due to a dip in the jet stream near the Baja California Peninsula in northwestern Mexico. And the gusts, which are usually confined to higher altitudes, have apparently found free rein to blow at ground level. To summarize, the wet season in Southern California, which runs from October to April, saw a record drop in precipitation this year. Following one of the driest autumns on record, this led to a period of hot, dry, and windy days. Aggravating the problem were the above-normal precipitation levels in the previous 2 years, which led to the growth of vegetation and foliage in mountainous regions, creating an ideal setting for fires now that the vegetation has dried out and become more flammable. It's the effect of what climatologists call a whiplash. In 2023, there was a lot of rain, which caused vegetation to grow, but in 2024, there was only 7 millimeters of rain in the area, very little, and the vegetation dried out. From a fire's perspective, many trees with little moisture are like an invitation to a feast. If that weren't enough, all these events are happening in the context of higher temperatures, again due to climate change, so the media and experts are quickly to declare that the mere increase in temperature can cause fires to intensify rapidly. As you can see, all the hypotheses, even quite reasonable ones, end with the inevitable reference to climate change. But among the experts, there are also some dissenting voices. Noah Diefenbaugh, a professor and fellow at Stanford's Woods Institute for the Environment, stated quite bravely that even if such events may seem extreme, they could be due to normal weather variability, and further research is needed to know if they are attributable to human-caused climate change. However, the majority of climatologists disagree and are certain that it is the climate crisis that is increasing the risk of fires in California, with arguments that often seem circular and self-referential. Hey guys, just a moment before we continue. Be sure to join the Insane Curiosity channel. Click on the bell, you'll help us to make products of even higher quality. Regarding the headlines and articles from major U.S. newspapers, it seems the verdict is already in. Human-induced temperature rise is the absolute culprit for the California wildfires. This narrative, as usual, fits the green agenda and conveniently absolves politicians from accusations of negligence and incompetence. But let's consider the issue from a statistical and historical perspective. California's land area is about 100 million acres, or 405,000 square kilometers. It's estimated that before 1850, when the area was much more forested and the ecology more resilient, about 4.5 million acres, or 17,000 square kilometers, burned annually in fires that lasted for months, with peak activity every 30 years, burning up to 12 million acres, or 48,000 square kilometers. Since 2000, the annual burned forest area has ranged between 90,000 acres, or 364 square kilometers, and 1,590,000 acres, or 6,434 square kilometers. And only in 2020, and now in 2024-2025, has the burned area exceeded 4.5 million acres. What has increased, therefore, is not the extent of the fires, but their destructiveness. Even the staunchest climate change advocates acknowledge that the total number of wildfires in California has not increased, and that the numbers were much higher in the 80s and 90s compared to the last decade. But they can't help but add that climate change is driving a clear trend. When wildfires occur in California, they are more likely to become larger and more destructive. They say this without considering that if destructiveness and damage amounts are increasing, the cause could be something much more obvious, namely the continuous increase in population density. Just to say, Los Angeles County has a larger population than 42 states and territories in the U.S. Over 350,000 people in California live in cities entirely within areas considered at very high risk of wildfires. In total, over 2.7 million people live in very high fire hazard severity zones, which also include lower risk areas. The growing urbanization in high-risk areas has progressively increased communities' exposure to wildfires, necessitating more effective preventive measures and more careful land management. Not only that, the quality and quantity of firefighting personnel also matter. In a press conference on Wednesday morning, the Los Angeles Fire Chief bluntly stated that the region's firefighting forces are not prepared to handle wildfires of this magnitude, especially if they have to respond to multiple fronts simultaneously. No, he said, Los Angeles County and all 29 fire departments in our county are not prepared for this kind of widespread disaster. There aren't enough firefighters to tackle 4 separate fires of this scale. The department is prepared for 1 or 2 large wildfires, but not 4, especially in an environment with strong winds and low humidity. As if that weren't enough, there were also furious debates about the lack of water for fire trucks. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power stated that the tanks supplying the hydrants had been filled throughout the city before the emergency began, but they were quickly depleted due to the enormous demand in recent days. There were even moments when some fire crews temporarily ran out of water, even in critical areas like the Pacific Palisades neighborhood, hit by the largest and most devastating fire. Others had low-pressure issues, which could have been caused by the extensive power problems triggered by the fires. Water management in the state has long been a controversial issue. Most of it comes from the rainier regions of Northern California, while the areas with the highest consumption are in the south, generating a wide debate on how much water the federal government should send from north to south. During his first term, Donald Trump promoted increased water flow to benefit farmers in Central and Southern California, but faced strong opposition from environmentalists, who argued that the disparity in water use would endanger some fish species. The current administration of Joe Biden, who was in California on Wednesday and canceled his official visit to Italy scheduled for January 9th, opted for a middle ground, allowing supplies but with environmental protection guarantees. But this is just the backdrop to the whole story, which, let's remember, is the result of fires happening in January, with temperatures that, although slightly higher than the monthly average, are certainly not those of the summer months, capable of generating fire even through spontaneous combustion. In our opinion, the main cause of this devastation lies in a completely different direction than blaming the usual climate change. Because it's fine that the wind spreads the fire quickly everywhere, the real question is, where did the fire come from? Well, shall we finally say it? Yes, of course, cigarette butts, sparks from obsolete power lines, careless campers, farmers. But shall we finally ask how a fire can develop simultaneously in 5 places, tens of kilometers apart? And for this question, there is only one answer. Only an organized band of arsonists could do it. Malicious individuals who, seeking the ideal wind conditions, agreed to simultaneously ignite various fire outbreaks and spread terror. After all, it's humans, not lightning or high temperatures, who start most wildfires in the United States. According to a study published in February of 2017 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, 84% of the fires that firefighters were called to fight between 1992 and 2012 were started by people. Scientist Jennifer Balch from the University of Colorado and several colleagues reached this conclusion after analyzing reports of 1.6 million wildfires from a comprehensive database managed by the U.S. Forest Service. Nearly all, 80% or more, of the fires in the Mediterranean ecosystems of Central and Southern California, the temperate forests of the eastern United States, and the temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest are caused by humans. In contrast, lightning ignited the highest percentage of fires in the Rocky Mountains and southwestern forests. The researchers also found that human-caused fires have tripled the length of the wildfire season. Lightning-caused fires usually concentrate in summer, while human-caused fires occur in spring, fall, and winter periods when forests tend to be moist. During these seasons, people have added more than 840,000 fires, a 35-fold increase over the number of lightning-caused fires. Moreover, who can forget that the fourth largest fire in California's history was started on July 24th by an arsonist who pushed a burning car into a ditch near Chico. A deliberate and reckless act that led to the destruction of 400,000 acres, or 1,600 square kilometers of forest, an area larger than the city of Los Angeles. To reduce the danger posed by these individuals, the state of California has had an arsonist registry for years. It works similarly to the sex offender registry and includes anyone who has been imprisoned for arson. Once released, they must report their address to authorities and check in at least once a year, every year for life. But obviously, without stricter controls, this is not enough. The keyword should be prevention. Especially in difficult conditions like those currently occurring in California, with very strong winds, it is not always possible to intervene with fire suppression means. Therefore, it is important to prioritize prevention, for example, by maintaining forests in rural areas which are experiencing significant abandonment and making investments to make the territory more resilient in both continental forests and Mediterranean scrublands. It is also necessary to monitor and refine the most at-risk areas to identify prevention priorities, as Salas notes, and prepare populations living near high-risk areas to adopt countermeasures to secure buildings. As of Sunday, January 12th, the wind has died down, but meteorologists say it will blow strongly again throughout the next week. Authorities have confirmed at least 16 deaths, but say it is still not safe to determine the actual total. Here is the current situation regarding the largest fires. Palisades Fire, located along the coast of Los Angeles County, the largest wildfire in Los Angeles County and the third most destructive ever recorded in California, started on Tuesday in Pacific Palisades and has spread to 23,713 acres, or 96 square kilometers. Containment is at 11%. Eaton Fire. The 14,117-acre or 57 square kilometer fire started Tuesday evening in the hills above Altadena. Located northeast of Los Angeles, the fire is 27% contained and is the fourth most destructive fire ever recorded in California. Hurst Fire. The fire in the northern part of the San Fernando Valley started on Tuesday, covering nearly 800 acres or 3.2 square kilometers. The fire is 89% contained. Firefighters have completely contained or halted the advance of the Lydia Fire in the Antelope Valley north of Los Angeles, the Kenneth Fire in the western San Francisco Valley in Los Angeles, the Sunset Fire near Runyon Canyon in the Hollywood Hills, and the Woodley Fire in the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area, also in the San Fernando Valley. Naturally, all this is blamed on climate change, that magic formula that absolves politicians from the blame for their policies while providing a convenient excuse to impose centralized control over energy, and therefore life itself by the government. And there's a deeper irony in all of this. Even if climate change were indeed the primary cause of the fires in California, the solution to the problem should be the same. Reduce the available fuel that feeds the fires, clear the underbrush and vegetation around homes, and bury power lines where possible. And above all, raise public awareness, especially on windy days, about the need to monitor the territory to report the presence of malicious individuals. A change of pace is needed, and an end to ideology. What do you guys think?